sweet light of mine.
It was a night that started with music of an effervescent nature, thanks to Sing Harlem. An introduction by the Foundation's CEO on why Madiba matters today more than ever. A moderated discussion with the ghostwriter of Long Walk to Freedom. But this packed auditorium had come to listen to the thoughts and ideas of Mamdani on Mandela.
I would like to recognize a man whose legacy lives on in the millions that he inspired. Madiba lives in every protest for justice, every call for democracy, every march with a righteous demand. Madiba lives in every township and slum where dignity remains just out of reach. And he lives in each person who reaches for that dignity, who works all day and then returns home with food for the hungry and medicine for the sick. Madiba lives each time someone bears witness to oppression or want or misery and does not accept it as inevitable, but rather as something that we each can fight.
Mamdani, who spent almost 2 years in Cape Town between 1996 and 1998, arriving at the age of 5, called Madiba the first president he ever knew. Early days in his rise to the highest office in New York City, where he recalled the lesson that justice had to be more than an ideal, using power to make change for the greater good.
Tonight, as we gather to recommit ourselves to what Madiba's leadership showed could be made possible, we must also recognize that to treat him as more myth than man is to do him a grave disservice. It is to sanctify a man who once famously said, "I am not a saint, unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying." He was a man as subject to self-doubt as any of us. He was a member of a movement as inclined towards infighting as any collective on a long, winding march towards a noble goal. He was a leader who won seismic victories, and yet the struggle to win the South Africa he dreamed of is still there to be won. What a gift it is that Madiba was flawed like each of us. For it is impossible to emulate a Messiah. All one can do is worship. And it is his humanity that allows us to look towards the next generation of leaders and say sincerely, you too can be Madiba.
Mamdani reflected in great detail on the now notorious televised town hall hosted by ABC journalist Ted Koppel when Madiba, as ANC deputy president, visited New York in June of 1990, months after his release. Questions ranging from his friendships with Cuba's Fidel Castro, Libya's Muammar Gaddafi and Palestine's Yasser Arafat, whether the ANC renounced violence or whether it would, in 1990, call for sanctions to be lifted against South Africa.
Let me pick up, if I may, Mr. Mandela, though.
Mamdani described the town hall as hostile, accusing Koppel of twisting the knife waiting to see how Madiba would bleed, and referenced a question about whether Mandela was willing to alienate the Jewish community in his support for the Palestinian cause.
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies.
It was a question so contrived that Madiba had to ask Koppel what exactly he meant. It is also a question that frankly rings familiar, one that I have been asked in similar forms many times myself. Whether opposing Israeli war crimes and violations of international law somehow makes you hateful towards a people. Madiba refused the premise. Instead, he flipped it into a different kind of question, about whether a politics of universalism can exist if it is riddled with exceptions, whether any of us are free if some of us are not. Towards the end of his answer, he said, you can call it being political or a moral question, but anybody who changes his principles depending on with whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation.
He said Madiba taught us the power of solidarity as a call to action for all of us.
Solidarity is not perfection. Solidarity is not purity. Solidarity is people choosing one another, sometimes even over themselves. Solidarity, my friends, so often feels impossible, like something only a mythical figure could make real. And yet, as Madiba reminds us, through the life he lived, through the leadership he showed, and through the words he spoke, it always seems impossible until it's done. Let us do it together. Thank you very much.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.